1 year ago, we bought a 2017 Ford Super Duty, and immediately we got to work testing headlight bulbs on it, trying to figure out what's going to get you the best beam pattern, the most brightness down the road without blinding oncoming traffic. And that was the Supernova V3. After hundreds of bulbs and thousands of hours of testing later, we finally have the next brightest bulb for your Ford Super Duty, and that is the Supernova V4 from Headlight Revolution. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install it and what it looks like compared to the factory bulbs against the wall in our studio. So let's put the factory grill back on. I'll show you how to take your truck apart and we'll get this thing started. So we've got the truck pulled in now, and the first step in getting the front end of this truck apart is pulling this plastic cover off here. There's a bunch of plastic clips, and I'm going to show you guys the easiest way to remove those. Use a flat pry tool. Honestly, you could use just about anything. Screwdriver, butter knife, anything you've got would work just fine for these. Take your pry tool and get under the middle pin just like this and lever up on it. They pop right out. Doesn't really take a whole lot of force. And just start from one side of the plastic shield and just work your way across. Alright, once you've got all these off, this cover should just release, lift right up, and you can set it off to the side. Now you're going to need a 10mm socket. You can use a ratchet or an impact or a drill if you've got one. There are 8 bolts across the top of this grill, and we're going to remove those just like so. Now, depending on your trim level of your truck, you might just have a regular grill. Your truck might have a front-facing camera and a washer fluid tube going to it. Whatever you've got, it all disconnects relatively easily. In this case, we're just going to pull this thing toward me. And normally it doesn't come off that easy. Now, we've had this grill off a million times on this truck. It's our testing truck, and we've owned it for a year, and you can about imagine how many different bulbs we've tried in this thing. You've probably seen it on camera a few times already. So these clips stayed behind, but what you're going to find on your truck, especially if it's not been taken apart before, is these clips are going to be very stiff, and you're going to need to press in on this as you pull the grill off. Just keep in mind a long screwdriver works really well for that little trick. So we can pull the grill toward us and set it off to the side, and now we're just about ready to pull our headlights out of this thing. Now, there's 4 bolts you got to worry about when pulling this headlight off. There's one 10mm bolt up top here. There are 2, one on top, one on bottom here. And then there's one by the bumper here. So pull these 3 first. Now, for the one above the bumper, on some trucks, the bumper is a little higher from the factory. Just for whatever reason, the assembly line put it together a little higher. The bolts are slotted for the bumper itself. So if you encounter that, you can't get the socket on that bolt when you're trying to take this thing apart. We've made a video for you guys so you can see exactly how to lower the bumper down. It's really simple. We'll post a link in the description below. On this truck, we don't have that problem. So you can take an extension and just sneak it through here, and the bolt is right here. So pull this little rubber grommet down, reach a 10mm socket in there, just loosen it right up. Try not to drop that bolt. I've done it several times and it never hits the floor any other time. Now we can finally pull the headlight out of the truck. Grab onto it and just honestly pull it toward you. And it's kind of tricky, but it does come out, just like so. I found that if you lever the top down, it comes out a little easier than if you pull it straight out. Twist these bulbs counterclockwise to remove them. And you can pull the headlight completely out and just set it off to the side. So we bought this Super Duty last year, almost exactly 1 year ago, to try and find the best lighting for it. And at the time we did. We tested hundreds of bulbs, and we found that the Supernova V3 was the best all-around bulb. It was the easiest to install, it worked the best, it didn't flicker, it didn't strobe like some of the other bulbs on the market that did. And now finally, a year later, after once again hundreds of bulbs and probably over 1,000 hours between myself, Chris Nelson, and our marketing team trying to figure out what works the best in our studio, we've got the Supernova V4 for you guys. Totally different design, different cooling, different driver, different chipset, and believe me when I say, in just a minute I'm going to show you what this looks like in the truck in our studio. This thing is unbelievable. And while we're in here, we're also going to do the turn signal bulbs and the T10 marker light up here that's just in the corner of the headlight. So that snaps right into this little marker light stock here that comes out of the headlight. Just so you guys know, that upgrade is as simple as this. Take the old bulb out, pop the new one in. Now, the turn signal, we're going to end up using the Armor Series 7443, and that looks just like this. These bulbs are crazy bright. We've been putting them in just about everything. Super reliable. We never get these things back. They never come back to us. They just work. And you can actually even do the switchback, which is what most people end up doing on this truck, just so it matches their LED headlights. So this thing stays white until you hit the turn signal and then it flashes amber. It's really cool. It really gives it that modern look that most new vehicles are coming with from the factory if you get the LED package. And that bulb snaps right into the turn signal bulb socket, like so. And then you need to install a resistor, and I'll quickly give you guys a rundown on that. You need to connect the resistor wires to the black, yellow, and the blue, green on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. You leave the center wire alone. We just shot a 30-minute video on how to do resistors on any vehicle, so if you're watching this and you're not quite sure what you need to do, I show you everything in that video, from using a test light to a multimeter, a few different methods, how to solder it, how to T-tap it, whatever you need, it's in that video. So now I've got the headlight, and the Supernova bulbs pop right in just the same way the old ones came out. Twist them in clockwise to secure them. It's a nice tight fit, just like the factory bulbs were. Do the same thing for your bottom. Now when you get these things installed properly, they should be up and down. So if you look in there, the bulb should be up and down, LEDs firing to the left and right, not the other way around. They really only go in one way, but I have seen people mistakenly think they're in all the way because it is kind of a tight fit. That's what you want. You don't want any moisture in there. And people stop turning it halfway and then it's crooked a little bit. So make sure it's in there all the way. Now we can take this thing back to the vehicle and plug everything back in. I'm going to start with the turn signal. Just pop that in, turn it clockwise to lock it in place. Plug your headlights back in. You can hear that click into place. That is so important. These H13 bulbs, I don't know why, but there are so many H13 bulbs on the market today that don't even click into place properly. And it's so irritating because then you end up having to either tape it or put a zip tie on it. The Supernovas do not have that problem. They click in. As you can see, I'm pulling on it pretty hard. It's not going anywhere. And then our little T10 marker light up here. And the headlight just goes back in just the same way it came out. Now I'm going to slap the bolts back in this headlight, pull the other headlight out, do everything the same way we just did it on this side. We'll take it over to the studio and we'll see what this thing looks like against the wall compared to the stock bulbs that you're already too familiar with. So here we've got our 2017 Super Duty pulled into the shop, and our low beam lux is 730. And lux is the amount of usable light output at, in this case, 25 feet. 730 is actually not too terrible, and honestly this beam pattern is pretty okay too. We've got a distinct set of hot spots on the left and right from each left and right headlight. The beam is nice and tight, and I'm hoping we can keep it that way while upgrading the bulbs. So let's peek at our high beam as well. Here we've got 850 lux on high beam. So from 730 to 850, that's not a huge increase, but the dissipation is a little bit more. So it's gonna flood into the ditch a little bit more on high beam. It's gonna reach down the road a little bit further, but not a huge change in light output. Now let's see what the V4s look like on low beam. Here's the Supernova V4 low beam installed in the 2017 Super Duty. And as you can see, it is not only incredibly bright, but we still maintain that tight factory beam pattern. We've still got both hot spots on the left and right. And this came in at 2,130 lux, which is almost 3 times brighter than the 730 that we initially measured. So that is awesome. That's what we're looking for. But more importantly, we're looking for that tight beam pattern. The last thing we want to do here is have something that's, you know, super ugly, super bright, but a ton of glare and stuff like that for oncoming traffic, and this doesn't have that. This is a factory beam pattern. It looks good, it's sharp, and it is bright. Let's look at high beam. This is the Supernova V4 high beam in the 2017 Super Duty. As you can see, we've still got a lot of diffusion, just like the stock bulbs did. We're a little bit brighter. We've got a little bit more light down low, which is actually kind of useful because you're going to be hitting the ditch with that. And let's face it, you're going to be using high beam on back roads and stuff like that. You're going to want that extra light. This came in at 2,310 lux. So kind of like the stock bulbs where there wasn't a huge brightness increase from low beam to high beam, but there is that additional flood, and that's going to be nice for you when you're driving down the road at night. As you can tell, that is an unbelievable upgrade compared to the bulbs that you drove home with when you first bought this truck. Now, if you still aren't quite satisfied, you need a little bit more light, you can always do your fog lights. We've got a video on that. The V4s are awesome there. There's a few more Emoto options. If you really need something crazy, we've got the Vision X light bars with the Addicted Desert Designs chase rack on the roof of this truck. We got a full install video on that. We've got the Vision X grill with the CG2s. We've got these trucks figured out, and you can see the whole thing on our website, headlightrevolution.com. You can see all the build videos and install guides on our YouTube channel, Headlight Revolution. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.